Welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Hal, and with me here today, Matt. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Matt B, or Matty B, from the YouTube channel Shark Repellent Bat Spray, which I haven't uploaded to in a while, but it's still there. We still got videos. I've been thinking of doing some stuff there, but yeah.
Yeah. There it is. Right there. No, that's good. Good intro. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right to the point. Well, Matt, dude, glad to have you on. Because we're talking about a couple of movies today. A couple of movies from directors I've talked about on the podcast before. So it's nice to have a second go around. I think I've only talked about one of each of their films before. So this was nice to have a second go around, I guess. Plus, these are, well, not that I've been dying to see vampires from John Carpenter, but you know what? Let's start with Mulholland Drive because that is.
We're dying to see crucified James Woods.
Well, we'll get to that when we get to that. Not yet, Minion. Not yet. No. Let's start with Mulholland Drive because that's a David Lynch film, obviously. That not only is it one of his most famous, but I think that's it. That's one of it's like what his most popular film on Letterboxd, Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, I'd say like it's one of the ones I hear the most that are the most talked about, along with like Eraserhead and maybe Blue Velvet, and I guess also his Dune movie for very different reasons.
Well, so I always say this: Dune is unfortunately the movie of his I've seen the most. Probably like 5 times at this point, which is entirely on accident, but also it's so funny. I can't stop watching it. I've grown to really love that movie for all the wrong reasons. I can't get enough of it. But I consider it very unfair because, well, he hates that movie. He hates the fact that his name is attached to it, but it's like, sorry, dude, you made it. Like you can't, you can't combat that. But I figured...
Take pride in your failures.
Take pride in your failures. Like me, I have a failed YouTube poop channel. So, no, I'm just kidding. I don't pride myself on those. But hey, we all have our failures. No, but I think it's only fair that even though I've seen Dune the most of his, I feel like I do need to start seeing a lot of his other stuff. I have seen his other stuff, obviously, like Blue Velvet, like Eraserhead. I actually rewatched Blue Velvet earlier this week because you had said, hey, let's do Mulholland Drive. And I was thinking, I've never seen that. Maybe I should rewatch a David Lynch film I have seen and I actually did enjoy for all the right reasons as opposed to Dune. So I rewatched Blue Velvet. Great film. We won't talk about it here, but great fucking movie. I love it. But yeah, Mulholland Drive. Why don't you start things off? Why did you make me watch this? Let's start off with that.
Yeah, so this is one of a list of a few movies that I threw your way to talk about, and one of the reasons why Mulholland Drive was one of them is it was the first of David Lynch's movies that I've seen because I wasn't too familiar with him. Obviously knew like his reputation, like he did weird, surreal stuff in his movies. And it was the first movie that I saw that really played with structure, so to speak. Like it wasn't just it was one of the first movies I saw that had just a ton of like surreal elements to them. And it wasn't just a regular beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure one of the first Lynch films I ever watched was Eraserhead, and the very first time I watched it, I did not like it. And then I watched Blue Velvet, which is also weird, but I feel like Blue Velvet is it has more of a traditional structure to it, so it was easier to follow.
And that's the thing. I feel like most of Lynch's movies they're more structured and they're more solidly structured than I think people think, given his reputation.
I think that's fair, because I often remember this Simpsons gag. I forget which episode it was, but it's one where Homer's like watching television and the TV says, and now back to Twin Peaks, and it's this horse dancing with a guy, and there's like a traffic light blinking in the back, and he's just like, I have no idea what's going on, and it's just like, I doubt Twin Peaks is that hard to follow. I haven't seen Twin Peaks, so but
It's not. It's not a show I've watched in a while. I do need to get back into it. I still haven't seen the movie or The Return because who the hell is a Showtime subscription?
It's a good point. But yeah, no, but I get what you're saying. He's not as pretentiously out there as maybe normies probably label him as. I agree, because again, I rewatched Eraserhead and I loved it a lot more. And I feel like with his movies, they are movies you need to watch multiple times in order to truly get a solid, concrete opinion on. Which is,
they're still layered and there's still a lot going on.
Yeah,
it's just not like when people refer to David Lynch as like, oh, he's the weird guy. He puts all this weird stuff in his movies. I feel like that's kind of selling him a bit short because, especially with Mulholland Drive, like, yes, there are surreal elements, but having seen it a few times, I sort of understand that it's surreal with a purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's still like clear story beats going on.
Yeah, no. So I don't often like just kind of brushing off any surrealist nature in films as like automatically just surreal for the sake of surreal, or oh, it's uber pretentious, it's crap. I don't really like assigning that to a lot of movies automatically. Some movies do deserve that kind of distinction because yes, people will just throw in whatever the fuck they want and it's miserable and awful and I hate it. But I do think David Lynch is somebody who, yes, has a lot of weird stuff in his movies, but like you said, there's purpose. There's purpose to the surrealness. And even though I just said you need to watch his movies multiple times, and it's rich that I'm saying that when I've only seen Mulholland Drive once at the time of recording this. But I do feel like I'm not pissed off at the surrealness in this movie where I'm just like, I didn't understand it. Fuck it. It sucks. It's like, no, I don't understand a lot of what it's going for, but I'm intrigued to want to continue to discover what it is saying through multiple rewatches. I think that's something people need to realize. There's a difference between wanting to continue to watch something because a movie's begging to be rewatched and feeling obliged to rewatch something because it's asking you for a rewatch. Like sometimes some movies are begging to be rewatched and they just don't have the staying power. They don't have that hook to you where you're just like, well, I have to see what's happening.
Yeah. There has to be something that hooks you from the very start.
Yeah. Or just even just the film as a whole just needs to have something to it where you're just like, okay, I really want to see this again. You know, I've seen plenty of movies that just end off being like, oh, you're going to have to rewatch me again to see what I was talking about. It's just like, I don't want to rewatch Men directed by Alex Garland again. It was awful, you know?
Yeah, so I guess we can start getting into more specifics.
Yeah,
on
specifics about Mulholland Drive. I agree.
Yeah, so I guess the basic plot, as best as I can describe it, is it starts out, you have this woman who gets in a car accident, gets amnesia, ends up in this other lady's apartment, she's an aspiring actress. She moves into her aunt's apartment. She finds the other woman, and the two of them try to figure out like her identity, where she's from. And then while that's going on, there's a director who is just having the worst life possible, just having the worst day.
I think that's definitely fair for like the first, people say the first half. I actually want to get this out there. I thought it's weird that people describe this movie as two halves, where like the first half is the quote unquote dream state and then the second half is reality, which is weird because I never felt as though the quote unquote second half was the half. It felt more like the last 20 minutes Whereas I feel
it
like
definitely felt like
the first, I don't know, maybe that's just because of how much was happening in those final, those, like, it felt like it was really, I don't know, just something about the pacing. It's not bad, but it definitely didn't feel like this movie was split into two halves. I didn't feel. But
yeah, the dream part of it definitely felt like the majority of the movie,
yes,
whereas I don't know if it's exactly the last 20 minutes, but definitely like the last
half an
act,
hour,
I guess you could
yeah,
say.
last
Yeah.
act, I guess I would rather say, I don't know, just saying last half as if this movie is split into two, like it's
Yeah.
like it's like that. No, I don't know, I never got that. Again, first time viewing, maybe I'm wrong, it's just the feeling I got. But yeah, no, I really did. I was really engaged with the first half. Not that I wasn't engaged with the second half. I think it's that turn. Like, the only reason I know that the first half was dream, the last act was reality, is because I looked it up after the fact. I was just like, all right, what the hell just happened? Which I hate to admit that. I really don't necessarily want to be that person that's just like, oh, I need to read something else in order to discover what a movie is saying. I feel like it's something I, as an audience member, should either figure out, or maybe the film should get across better. And not to say that this film didn't do it better. I'm just saying I think it's on me to figure it out. But I was just like, I have to do some reading, man. I have to, because that shift,
like,
that
it
shift,
should
it really
encourage that.
Yeah, yes, of course. But and again, like I was saying, I should only I don't mind reading up as long as I was engaged with the film to begin with, which I was. So that's why I'm okay with it. I don't know. It's just a personal thing where I'm just like, oh, I have, because I see that all the time when people are just, I even read a review on Letterboxd. I can't remember who said it, but someone was just like, me during the movie, I don't understand it. Me after reading up on the movie, oh, it's a masterpiece. It's just like, I don't know. That to me just seems weird, that I'm not enjoying the film while I'm watching it. It's something I can only appreciate afterwards and after reading about it. It's like that doesn't gel with me. I don't think. But again, personal thing.
Okay.
But
yeah,
again, I think this film is safe from me hating it like that, because again, I loved it. I loved the experience. I just feel like I'll love it a lot more once I actually rewatch it. You know?
Yeah, no, like, I feel like a movie, if it's good enough and interesting enough, it should encourage you to like read more deep into it and like see other people's interpretations.
Yeah. But it shouldn't, like, reading up on it shouldn't hinder on whether or not you think it's a masterpiece or you think it
shouldn't determine whether or not you like it. It should be because you liked it.
Yeah, it's like when, I don't know if you remember the weeks and months after Rise of Skywalker came out, and there would always be these Star Wars Twitter accounts being like, did you know that in the Rise of Skywalker, and it explained like details about the movie after it already happened. And there's that famous tweet, there's that famous screenshot of one of those stupid tweets where it's just like, did you know that these Star Destroyers were built by generations of people for 30 years or something like that? And then Elijah Wood, like Frodo Baggins Elijah Wood, responded to it like, no, how the fuck could we have known that? It's just like that shit pisses me off, how you just like, oh, we're explaining stuff after the movie's out and in tweet form, and that all of a sudden makes these flaws okay. It's like, no, like that shit pisses me off.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I guess, well, you mentioned, like, you were talking about this when you read up on it. I guess we'll get into it. How
the majority of the beginning is a dream. It's not real. Which I think looking back on it, it does make a lot of sense. And I do like that. I like how, even though it's not so much it was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. No, it's more so it's taking elements from reality and morphing it in a way that the main character, what's her name? Diane. Well,
so her real name is Diane.
So Naomi Watts' character, she plays Betty throughout most of the movie, but she's really Diane. So it's all just her making it up, and I kind of like that. I kind of like how, because I think it does. I think that does make it a lot more jarring once you get to the reality section, because you're just like, well, wait a minute, what is happening here? But through really thinking about it, I like that she took people she knew in real life and put them in, like, she took aspects of reality and just morphed them. She didn't just start from scratch and make this. I don't know. It was a lot more clever, like than that.
And it wasn't just people that she knew personally. It was just people she saw like at a glance too.
Yes.
Like I love, like, they're at this party. I think it's like dinner party, and she sees a dude in like the cowboy hat just walk right out the door, and through that she kind of in her fantasy creates the cowboy who the director meets up with.
Yeah. Which is interesting because the cowboy in that one shot in the background, that's the second time we see him.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is really good. One thing I guess we should probably, I actually do have a question regarding the dream scene at the beginning, meaning, so when the character's name is Dan, when he's at the diner with the other guy and he's explaining the dream to him. It's a really great scene. What was the point of it? Tell me, please.
So I've seen this, but I think this must have been like my fourth or fifth time rewatching it. That's the one part. It's one of two things that I still don't fully know the answer of. One of them is
I'm not alone in this.
The jump scare guy that like pops up from behind the it just goes, "I see you."
Yeah, no, because again, it's a really great scene. And I guess
love the build up to it too.
Oh yeah, the build up's great. I'm ashamed to admit this. I remember first discovering about it because I think it was in like a Watch Mojo top 10 I watched over a decade ago, where it's just like top 10 jump scares in non-horror movies. I don't even remember. I only knew about Mulholland Drive because of that scene, which I guess is good because that is literally the only thing I ever knew about this movie before watching it. And again, it's from like a video from well over a decade ago. I don't even remember the context. I just remember like there is a jump scare in Mulholland Drive. It's just like, oh, interesting. But yeah, it's a great scene. But yeah, thinking about it, what is the point of it in the grand scheme of the film? Because I think through thinking about it, yes, the idea of Diane / Betty and Rita and Camilla kind of hanging out throughout the majority of the movie, that's due to Diane having feelings for Camilla. And then you see Adam, Justin Theroux's character, the director, kind of having just the worst day, like you were saying. I like that it's her fantasy of imagining him going through the worst shit because she sees him as an obstacle between her and her love for Camilla.
Exactly.
And I like that it's not just it's him having the worst day, but it's not as comically over the top where she just imagines him being this like dorky guy who's just like like so unattractive that she can't imagine why he is the love interest of Camilla. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, he's not a stereotype. He seems like a normal guy. He's just experiencing normal things.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Normal annoying things like, oh, the producers won't let him do the movie he wants to do the way he wants to do it. Oh, he comes home to his wife sleeping with Billy Ray Cyrus. It's like it's just it feels more believable. And I think that does help to make it seem less obvious that it's a dream world, because I think that makes the ultimate reveal all the more surprising. Because if it was a lot more obvious, like he's just like this bumbling moron and everything bad is happening to him, I feel like throughout the majority of the movie I'd be like, something's up here, you know.
Yeah, throughout all of his experiences, like he kind of just keeps the same like blank expression.
Yeah,
like he has like blow up moments, like when he sees his wife cheating on him and immediately he just walks over, like pulls her jewelry out of the drawer and like like he does all of that with like a straight face almost.
Which I think that also kind of adds to the comedy, because I just think it's funny seeing him pour pink paint and then Billy Ray Cyrus comes over and punches him in the face. It's great.
It's crazy that he's in this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was just like watching the movie and I see Billy Ray Cyrus in bed with his wife, and I'm just like, hold up, wait a minute. What are you doing here? Same with the Showgirls stripper. Yes, there's an actress in this movie who is in Showgirls, and I have to bring that up because Showgirls is a staple of this podcast, unfortunately. I saw her immediately. I immediately recognized her. I'm like, oh, you're in this too, huh?
Who is she?
She was, what was it? It was the Hitman Joe. And he's with two people. One of them is this blonde woman with short hair, and she asks him for a cigarette. And he's like, keep an eye out for such and such, and she's like, okay, Joe, or something like that. That woman who asked for the cigarette with the short blonde hair, her name in Showgirls is Penny, and she's a stripper, and she's apparently the main character in the sequel Showgirls 2, Pennies from Heaven.
Oh really?
Yeah. There
you go.
So little fun factoid for you that connects this movie to Showgirls.
It was because of that episode you did, I actually decided to watch Showgirls.
Oh, good.
Yeah. it was free on Tubi, so it's not like I had to pay anything for it.
Right. You didn't have to buy the 4K from Vinegar Syndrome like I did.
Oh no. Or the there was this giant like DVD like collector's edition I found at this vintage video store.
Oh.
It's just it's crazy the reputation that movie has.
Yeah, the reputation it has here on Too Many Movies. We're stuck with it now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to know that our episode has influenced people to actually watch the movie. So as long as people are also watching Fritz the Cat, because that's actually a good film from that episode.
That I still need to get to.
Oh, dude. Get on the Bakshi train. The hype is real. Love Bakshi.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
No, but I want to talk about the scene where Adam goes to meet the cowboy, because I was like, okay, this is something interesting here. And I knew immediately, because there's that part where the cowboy's talking to him, and he's like, if you do good, you'll only see me one more time. If you do bad, you'll see me 2 more times. And I was thinking, okay, they're going to do something with him showing up either once again or twice again. And then, yes, he shows up again. I think when he sees Diane, when he sees the dream version of Diane, like the dead body on the bed.
Yeah, and she's in bed, and then he like opens the door and he says, I can't remember, it was like, you better wake up.
Yeah, he's like, time to wake up, babe, or time to wake up, girl, something like that. Yeah. And then again, like we had said earlier, when he's in the background at that dinner party, like that's who he actually is just being at this random dinner party. That's twice. In which case it says, oh, Diane did bad. I mean, you're led to believe Adam did bad. No, it's Diane did bad, because Diane
it's her dream.
Yeah, it's Diane's dream. She is the main focus. Like the entire movie revolves around her essentially. But I just love
all these other.
I just love the actual like aesthetics of that scene where Adam meets the cowboy, because it's just like really dark. You get like that one flickering light, and the performance from the dude is just incredible. He's so straight faced.
Yeah. I like that too, because it kind of feeds into what I was talking about earlier, how it's surreal with a purpose.
Yes,
and how this is one of the great ways that Lynch sort of captures what it's like to have a dream. Or be in a dream.
Yeah.
Because the thing about, like, really what we're talking about this movie is it's not all just like, oh, surreal and weird stuff happening. There is a part of it that's grounded in reality, with just like 1 or 2 things that's a little off.
Yeah.
Like I think it's they call it like the uncanny valley.
Something like
I think
that.
where you have something that almost resembles real life or like a real person, but has like 1 or 2 things that's kind of off about it and just throws off the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of, in a way, it's kind of what being in a dream is like. Like I don't claim to be an expert on that area of psychology or how the brain works.
Me neither.
Yeah. But that is kind of what being in a dream is like. Like, I remember when I watched Inception for the first time, there was that one line in that Leo says that's always stuck with me. As he says, "Dreams feel real while we're in them, and it isn't until we wake up when we realize something was strange."
Yes.
That's kind of what this, because the dream world, for the most part, all resembles reality, but there's one or two things that's kind of off. And with the cowboy, like he has this weird, like, uncanny look. Like, it kind of looked like his eyebrows were shaved.
Hmm.
And he, like you said, he just kind of talks with that straight face.
Yeah.
And they're kind of just out in this ranch with just the one light.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like another example of that is when Betty is when she leaves the airport, and like she's with the two old people who see her off, and then you see them in the car and they're just keeping that smile.
Yeah.
And it creates this kind of like eerie, uncomfortable feel to it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. How when she gets off the plane and she's talking with those old people, and she's just like, "Oh, isn't this great? I loved
Mhm.
spending time with you guys." I was thinking how artificial it felt, but I chalk that
Mhm.
up to just Lynch being Lynch, just having this
Yeah.
weirdness present throughout the film. Um, and then ultimately it's revealed, because that was all a dream. It did feel very artificial. I mean, the whole
Mhm.
fact that I'm staying at my aunt's house, and I have this audition already. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, buddy. That's how LA works. It's like,
Yeah.
it's
And because
so dreamlike.
she is an inspiring actress, she probably like grew up like with a lot, like raised by like old movies and media, and so that's kind of like a huge part of her identity, and so that reflects in her dreams
Yes, absolutely.
almost.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's weird, but I'm often just forgiving it as just like, we're not there yet. And then once it's revealed, once you really think about the fact that that was all a dream, it's like, okay, that was all intentional. The sappiness, the artificial
Mhm.
feeling, it was all intentional.
Yeah, and I also like how like her dream is basically her sort of constructing this fantasy
Hmm.
where she is kind of this, where she kind of like reimagines herself as this kind of hopeful, innocent person, and then Camilla is essentially, she's someone who lost her memory, essentially like she's essentially a blank slate,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah. She's this hopeful innocent to make her seem more likable,
Hmm.
more uh understandable, more sympathetic, I would say. Um, so then, because then she can be like, "Oh, I was just this hopeful innocent. I didn't deserve anything bad happening to me." It's like,
Hmm.
yeah. So then, when it's actually revealed, no, you were a hardened drug addict and a jealous asshole. It's like,
Yeah.
no, yeah, I don't feel bad for
Mhm.
you. But yeah, no, and I like how you described Camilla slash Rita as this blank slate. It really think about it again, the whole amnesia aspect. It's just like that is so corny and so Hollywood.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, I conveniently lost my memory and don't remember anything except the name Diane, who is Betty's real name. Like, all I remember is this one this one person who I'm supposed to obsess over because this
Hmm.
person has
Yeah.
an obsession for me. It's like, oh, yeah, again, there's it's there's a lot to take in, but just because there's a lot to take in, all of it does kind of help together to make this like a very strong story, I would say. Like
Hmm.
there everything has a point to it. I think
Yeah.
that's what makes it like a very engaging story, is that everything, there's a point to it. I haven't figured out the point to it. Again, we're still figuring out what the point of Dan's dream scene was with the jump
Yeah.
scare, but I feel like just because it stands out, I think that makes me all the more like determined to figure out what the actual point of it was. um Another scene I really was like, I liked, that I'm still trying to figure out the point of was the scene when Joe goes to like his assassination scene where he kills the guy and he accidentally kills the woman and then he has to kill the janitor, and it's a really funny scene. I really enjoyed it because it
that almost
really
felt like right out of a, what was that?
I'm sorry, what?
Okay. Oh no, sorry. I was just saying because like I like it's essentially like right out of a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah.
Where it's just like almost like this hit gone wrong.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And so yeah, Joe is revealed to be this hitman who Diane hires to, I guess, kill Camilla.
Mm-hmm.
And in her dream, I guess I remember reading this somewhere. I think best I can describe it is she's trying to like reimagine him as kind of this like bumbling buffoon who like doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because it does show that she does feel some sort of guilt and remorse over essentially putting this hit out on her.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely feels guilty. That much is apparent. And yeah, I guess imagining Joe as this bumbling idiot gives her some sort of ability to pretend as if it's not her fault, to just be like, maybe he accidentally did something, and it just shows how much of a bumbling doofus he is. Like, again, I guess that was kind of what I was expecting out of Adam's portrayal in the movie when thinking back on it, because it's just like, oh, Adam is this obstacle in the way of her showing her true love to Camilla. So the fact that she's kind of portrayed, but I guess it still works with Joe, because again, there's that whole it's not my fault mentality that's going on throughout the movie, so it still works. And again, I still feel like as though Adam still has this aura of, well, like we were saying, like, do you remember that scene when he gets out of the meeting with the producers and he notices the limo that's parked out there, and he goes up and he sees if it's like where those was it the,
he asks if it's their car, their
limo,
the producers.
Yeah.
I guess they're,
how do you say their last name? Castiglioni. Oh boy, I'm not Italian, so I don't know. One of them's played by Dan Hedaya, which I was just like, oh cool, Dan Hedaya's in this movie. But yeah, he goes up to them and he's like, hey, is this their car? And they don't even say yes. They're just like, move, like fuck off, dude, like go away. So he takes his golf club and he just starts smashing the thing.
Smashes it, yeah.
Yeah, again, it just shows him as, and again, I guess he's not portrayed as a doofus, but he is portrayed as kind of cocky throughout the movie. Because
also just kind of, like, it's also like an impulsive, immature act.
Very immature. And like we were saying with the cowboy scene, during that whole entire scene, he's just kind of like cocky and just like, whoa, whatever, dude. And the cowboy is talking to him, being like, no, you need to take this shit seriously. Again, I think that just reflects that every other character in the dream world is either an asshole or a fool, just somebody who can be blamed for their misfortunes, their dumb decisions, but not Betty. Not Betty. Like, Betty is the innocent, the person you should all feel bad for. Again, which is really rich because, again, this is all Diane's fantasy. So I think that really does that's just such a compelling way of showing these characters. I really do dig that now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, then Camilla, who she renames Rita, is sort of imagined as this like defenseless, helpless person who she like rushes in to save.
Yes.
And going back to what you were saying about how like this plot, this about like amnesia and finding out your identity is like very like cliche sounding. And she even like Betty even has a line where it's like, oh, it'll be just like in the movies, we'll pretend to be someone else.
Yeah. Which I'm not usually a fan of in movies, where they're just like, oh, this is just like in such and such. This is just like a movie. It feels very like, wink, wink towards the camera.
Yeah.
And it gets obnoxious, but I feel like when done correctly, I agree. I think it can really work. And I do think this movie earns that because it's very subtle in other ways that I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and again, it's with a purpose, because
Purpose.
that's the world Diane knows.
Yes.
It's like movies and acting and all that.
Yeah.
One thing I liked in particular on my rewatch is it's something I've always enjoyed about the film, but I really like those two audition scenes
Mm.
when she's practicing when Betty's practicing her audition with Rita, and then the actual audition, and just how polar opposite they are.
Yeah. Because I like the first one. It starts off as if it's kind of real, because you're kind of like a little off put by when it starts, because it starts with Rita and Betty kind of arguing, and then I love the pan the camera does where it pans back to where it's showing Rita in frame, and then it kind of pans the camera back, and then you see she's holding a script, and you're instantly like, oh, okay, they're practicing for something.
Yeah.
And but then like the facade starts to crack when like she starts laughing and smiling. Betty does. So she's not like, she's taking it seriously, but then, because she's in the presence of somebody she subconsciously loves, because again, that hasn't been revealed yet, but in her fantasy, it's starting to break. She does start to like kind of see it as kind of fun and whatever. But then yes, with the second audition, it's a lot more serious in that sense. Like, she never breaks character, as if she's like this amazing actress. She's so good at what she does, And
it's played a lot differently too. Like in the earlier scene, they were like more aggressive towards each other, whereas in the actual audition, it's played a lot more, like steamy, sensual.
Yeah, which is interesting when you think about it, because again, she's in the presence of Rita in the first audition, someone, again, like we said, subconsciously she loves. The actual person who Betty is, Diane, loves Camilla, aka Rita. God, these names are so confusing, but you understand what I'm saying, how like,
oh yeah, definitely,
she loves Camilla. And so you'd think in the scene where, in her fantasy, where she's acting out this scene with Camilla, the steamy scene would be with Camilla because she loves Camilla, but it's not. It's in the actual audition with producers and directors and professional actors kind of looking at her. And I think that, now that I'm thinking about it, that really coincides with her being much more of a narcissist, because it's not even really like that side of her, even though she could have had an opportunity where she got to act out this fantasy with the person she loves. She'd rather bring her A material in her fantasy to showing these fake people how amazing she is at acting and how great and awesome and epic she is. Oh, that's really interesting now to think about it. The fact that, like, it just shows how much of a narcissist she is. She'd rather bring her A material to people she doesn't even know than to a person she'd rather show that to.
That's a really good, it's really interesting interpretation, because the one I sort of thought of was it kind of reflects kind of like an expectation versus reality sort of thing.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas like the first time when she's auditioning with Rita, Camilla, whatever you want to call her, I assume that that's how she imagines like acting would be like, because like you said, she's like, she does break character a little bit. She starts laughing, like she's having fun with it, but she's still taking it seriously.
Yes.
And then we get to the actual audition, and it almost seemed like the actor she was auditioning was kind of like coming on to her.
Yeah, there was a bit weird. There was a bit of weirdness coming from him. I did feel. And then you have like the producer. What's the producer's name? The Wally producer, just being like, "Oh, you're fantastic. You're great." And he does give off very weird old man producer vibes. Yeah, I think that it would be a lot more realistic, because you have these very powerful men in a room watching this petite little blonde woman act her heart out, and then you have other women there, but they're also deep in the industry. They have deep ties in the industry themselves, so they're not very sympathetic either. That whole reality. But it's also interesting because, again, this is still in her fantasy world. So this is her interpreting it as reality. But again, she still comes out on top where everybody's just cheering on, being like, "Oh, fantastic, fantastic!"
Yeah, going back to what you were saying, how like she brought her A material to that, and how like the guy she was acting with, kind of seemed like she was trying to have this like power over her, but she decides to match his energy, basically.
Yeah.
And so like, because by the end, like even he's taken aback by it.
Yeah, he's just like, "Oh, she's too epic. She's too good."
She's too dangerous to be kept alive.
I mean, there is that one director who's just like, "Yeah, it's good. It's good."
Yeah, he has like no idea what he's doing.
No, not even that.
What he's talking about.
Just not even that, but like there is this kind of passiveness to him where he doesn't really care. It's clear that he doesn't care for her. But again, in the fact that it's in her fantasy, he's still complimenting her, even though he's very passive about it. He's just like, it is good. It is good. Like she can't even have somebody genuinely critique her in her fantasy. He has to be like, it's what did he say? It's like, it's too real or something like that. He's just like, but it's still good. Like the criticisms he's giving that director, even though he's very passive about it, he's still not backhanded compliment, because backhanded compliment would imply negative. Like he's still positive towards her is the thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like when, like if you're at a job interview and someone asks like, what would you say are like weaknesses that you feel like you need to overcome? And obviously you don't want to come off as like
incompetent,
weak and like incompetent. So you say like, oh, I would say I'm too hardworking, or I'm like too
yeah. No, exactly. I think that's fascinating, though, the fact that you have this fantasy that's so ultra schmaltzy, but it has to be. I feel like if it wasn't, I feel like if it wasn't schmaltzy, the fact that it was like everything's working out for her in this fantasy, I feel like, I don't know, it just wouldn't be as impressive. I feel like it would kind of make her character less interesting, because it's like, oh, but deep down she really is a good person. It's like, no, she's a terrible person, this Diane / Betty. Like she is. And I don't think the movie has to make her out to be this villainous force to show that, because I can't really say she's a villain. It's more so the fact that she's just a complete narcissist, and I think that is through years of acting in Hollywood, being in this horrible hellscape known as Los Angeles / Hollywood, and just becoming a worse and worse person because of it. And I feel like you as an audience member can interpret it that way. But again, the movie doesn't spell it out for you. Like it's something that you can kind of decipher for yourself. So again, I think she's a horrible person. I hate her, but I'm glad that I hate her.
Yeah, and it makes sense that someone with a narcissistic personality would imagine themselves like this.
Yeah, being the most epic person ever, the most epic actress ever. Oh, honey, you're gonna take the town by storm. It's just like,
yeah, it's almost like this kind of sense of like main character syndrome.
Oh, very much main character syndrome.
Because I can kind of go back to what I was talking about earlier about how the ways it kind of resembles a dream, where it's like it captures these like small oddities of like almost reality, but just a couple things that are kind of off.
Yeah.
I think that's like, so I like when that woman shows up in her apartment. She has like no idea who this person is.
Yeah.
She's like wandering in. She's like, "Who are you?" And she like, points to Rita. She's like, "That woman's in danger."
Which she is.
Yeah.
she dies. In universe, she dies. Yeah, almost kind of like her subconscious kind of biting back at her, I guess you could interpret that woman as. Like, even though
almost like parts of reality kind of like seeping in.
Yeah, even though she is a huge narcissist who's just lost in her own fantasy, yeah, aspects of reality are still within her subconscious biting back, being like, hey, maybe what you're doing is kind of fucked up. I actually did want to, I just thought of something else. The old people. So at the beginning, the old people that she meets at the airport, again, kind of acting as if they're old people that she just meets on the plane and she has wonderful conversations with, and then she tells them, hey, see me on the big screen. They're like, we'll keep an eye out for you on the silver screen, stuff like that. But then at the end, they're portrayed as tiny people, but then also people trying to attack her. Again, another thing I'm like kind of lost on.
It's the one other thing where I'm like, I'm a little bit, okay, very lost on.
Yeah, okay. So again, I'm not the only one.
Because like, yeah, when they come back, like first they're as the little people. The way they move is kind of like lowered the frame rate almost.
Yeah. Kind of harkening back to that Uncanny Valley kind of thing.
Yeah. And then by the end, when I guess, as you say, they try to attack her, like they still have that like big goofy smile on their faces.
It's so funny. You just see these two old people just be like all smiling, and then she's screaming her head off, and then she falls into the bed and blows her brains out.
Yeah, and then that leads to because the position she's in on the bed when she shoots herself is when Betty and Rita's still in the dream, they go to find what they think is Diane's apartment, which it is in reality. And then they find the body in there. It's all like decrepit and
decomposed.
Yeah, it's a genuinely creepy image too.
Yeah, definitely.
I like how, yeah, especially because we don't get like a perfect look at it.
No. Because I was thinking about that because like while watching it, yeah, the lighting on it was a little too dark. Where I'm like, I can't really see what they're looking at, but through context clues of the build up to the body, you can they're like holding their noses to like, because the smell is so overpowering, because again there's a decomposing body in there, so of course the smell would be overpowering. So you get it, even though like the image is not quite there, but again maybe that's again to add on to the fantasy aspect of things aren't entirely adding up.
Yeah, it can also kind of lean to the dream aspect where things aren't like, where even in dreams things can be kind of fuzzy and
yeah, I still don't understand the inclusion of the old people. Maybe I'm just pulling this out of my ass. Maybe like her parents, like being portrayed as this hounding force on her, putting pressure on her. But I guess maybe that's not, because they don't play a big part in the movie though, is the thing.
I think she referred to one of them by her first name.
Yeah, Irene. I think
Irene,
is the old lady.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like, I'm sure the answer is obvious, but again, I think I think that's why this is something you need to see multiple times in order to truly understand. But again, even though I don't understand everything, there is a lot to appreciate about it through that first watch that I was so into. Like, I'll say this, the opening kind of caught me off guard. We didn't talk about the opening, how these people
at the very
dancing.
beginning, it's kind of like just people.
Yeah, it was like something out of like a late 2000s YouTube video. Just kind of caught me off guard. I'm just like, what the hell is this? Like, what is this? But then it kind of
it's a bunch of people just like badly green screened.
Yeah,
under this blank background.
Yeah,
just like they look like they're like dancing in a club.
Yeah, it's like a Tim and Eric or Eric Andre show kind of skit.
Yeah,
you just have these badly green screen people just dancing everywhere. It's just like, is this a YouTube poop? What is happening right now? But then then it does fade into the actual movie, and then I was like, it'll be explained later. I think I read somewhere it's supposed to be indicative of like falling asleep, like lying down onto a pillow and like kind of starting to dream, I guess. Which is kind of weird, but I guess I can kind of see that.
I guess, but like even like you don't remember like beginning to fall asleep, beginning to dream.
No, it's always you never remember falling asleep. You never remember when the dream started. It just kind of happens.
So I imagine that would be kind of a difficult thing to capture.
I'm sure there's something there, like obvious, like we've been saying, there's intention behind the surrealness. It's just
there's enough about the movie that like we have figured out and that is clearly intentional, that I'm sure even the things that we don't quite have figured out, there is an explanation behind it.
yeah. It's just a matter of actually figuring it out eventually.
Yeah. I mean, the jump scare guy who pops out behind the dumpster, I mean, for all we know, I mean, she's in LA. That could just be a typical LA resident.
Yeah.
That she just found.
Yeah, it's
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, Bernie Hobo. He hangs out behind Ralph's every Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Olivia, contact me. Let me know if Bernie Hobo is an actual thing, please. You're the California resident.
I don't know how much we'd be able to talk about with this, but and I kind of alluded to this earlier with the audio testing, but when they go to that club where everything's recorded, you have the guy who yells, "No, I banda."
No, I banda. Yeah.
There is no band.
Yeah, the whole magician aspect of the movie, how he keeps saying this is all a recording, this is all on tape, which again shows the movie's age, saying like, oh, it's all on tape. It's just like tape. But I mean, you still get what he's saying. The whole like, oh, this is all a recording. Yeah, it's all fake. It's interesting. Yeah, you have this magician at a magician show being like, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, it's all fake. Which is weird, but then again, that kind of cements the idea that, oh, this has all been a fantasy. Yeah. So they say, what do they say in Spanish? We just said it.
No hay banda.
No hay banda. There is no band.
I don't know if that's the exact translation, but it definitely it gets the idea. It gets the point across.
Yeah. So it's saying there is no band, even though you hear all the music.
There are a couple of ways you can interpret that. You can interpret sort of the movie itself, like coming out and telling you, like, hey, none of what you've seen is real, even though it kind of looks and feels real.
Yeah.
Or it could just be, like, guess, Diane's dream sort of telling you, like, hey, none of what you're experiencing right now is real, like, in universe.
Yeah. The subconscious kind of really starting to fight back, being like, listen, this has all been a fantasy. You can't do this to yourself. I can definitely see it again. Both, and the fact that it can be both at the same time, I think that truly shows how good of a metaphor it is. When you can have that metaphor for the audience to be like, oh, none of this is real, but still within universe, let the characters know this has all not been real. I feel like that I really do appreciate the fact that
it's a really clever way to do that. Aside from that, I don't really think of a ton more to say.
Like I've been saying, I did really like it. I can definitely see myself revisiting this, and like I said, I feel like I need to revisit this in order to truly come to a solid conclusion on it, because again, I really like it, but there's just so much that I'm just like left questioning, asking what was the point of that, but not in a sense where, oh, what was the point of that? If you could cut it out, nothing changes. It's like, no, I think if you cut even the tiniest bit of this movie, a lot of it changes and a lot of it doesn't make any sense. It's just a matter of me on a personal level having to come to discover these conclusions myself.
If I could point to maybe one scene that I'm, for all I know, could definitely have a purpose to it, I just haven't quite seen it. It's not even that long. It's the one you talked about with the showgirls lady when she's asking for the cigarette. Like, because we had just seen that hitman guy earlier in that little, like, basically comedy skit, essentially, where he just accidentally kills off all these people. And
you're
I don't know. I guess
wondering what the point of. Well, the other thing too is like she just has that one scene, and then it's interesting because then Dan Hedaya and that other guy, the producer brothers, come in. That was his only scene. You have Robert Forster as this detective. He only had one scene. Like a lot of these characters showed up once.
Yeah, Fun and Funny is Robert Forster. He's in the opening credits, I think, his
Yeah,
name.
yeah,
And he just shows up for the one scene.
yeah. I was thinking about that. I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't he top billed? Why is he
Yeah.
only in one? Like, not even one scene. Like 1 30-second scene. It's like,
Yeah, it
well,
was
wait a
he and
minute.
he and that other dude who's in
The,
he was in
the
A Simple Plan.
the other detective, yeah, and he's just
Yeah.
like, what does he say? He's like, we found this, and Robert Forster's like, yeah, you told me. It's like,
Yeah.
wait a
Could
minute.
be someone's missing, maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
That's it.
he's like,
Mhm.
yeah, you already told me. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, why is he telling him again? Huh? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, the fact that these are named characters, the fact that these are big-ish names, like they're recognizable actors,
Mhm.
and they're only there for one scene.
Yeah, they're pretty like talent, like well-known
Yeah,
ish character
yeah,
actors.
I know who Robert Forster is. I know who Dan Hedaya is. I know who Girl from Showgirls is.
Mhm. Yeah, the other detectives, Brent Briscoe, I think his name is. He
Oh,
was in a
that's an
movie A
awesome
Simple
name.
Plan.
That's an awesome name,
Yeah,
Brent Biscoe.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And he was also in a movie I watched recently called Zombievers,
Oh,
which
hundreds of zombievers.
ooh, I don't know if there were hundreds, but
There was one.
there were a couple.
Zombievers.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah, that sounds it.
Mhm.
You know what? I don't know. Here's my interpretation. Now that I'm thinking about it, the fact that you see these actors for like these one-off scenes, maybe it's it's Betty slash Diane's subconscious putting in Hollywood actors into these roles, kind of
Mm,
justifying her fantasy as being this Hollywood fantasy. Like she's
yeah,
really imagining herself. Like again, she's grown up on movies and actors, so she's putting these very famous actors in these one-off scenes. Maybe as because again, that's what she's grown up with. It's kind of a long shot because I feel like if that was an aspect, I feel like that would have been a lot more obvious, but maybe also because it's not so obvious, it doesn't really strike you as odd at first.
hmm
Maybe. I don't know, because like I'm trying to think of like why you would have these actors in these one-off roles or why you would have these characters in one-off scenes. But then again, I guess because I think it really is that just subconsciously she put these real life actors in these roles, and that kind of just it gives her the satisfaction that she's living a Hollywood movie.
yeah,
Um, and I'm trying to think, and there's also that scene with the, you know, throughout the first half where you have this Mr. Rourke character, this small guy in this room, and you kind of think he's the brains behind Adam's misfortunes, when in
mhm,
reality he's more of a red herring.
yeah,
Um, in the grand scheme of the movie, he's definitely a red herring because nothing ever happens. You, I think again uh it's supposed to show Diane kind of shifting the blame away from her.
mhm.
She's
Yeah. She's sort of constructing
yeah.
this like evil puppet master.
Yeah, so even in her
Mm,
dreams, when she really is the evil puppet master, she's trying to shift the blame to somebody else. So she creates this character, this big Hollywood
mhm,
head honcho, like this guy in the shadows working in Hollywood to make things worse for everybody else, except for her, because she's awesome
mhm.
and epic and the greatest actress who ever lived.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually that's because that is another thing that I hadn't quite figured out, and I can't believe I didn't never consider that interpretation of the little guy like kind of pulling the strings.
Yeah, because like in every scene he was in, he didn't have a lot of scenes, but every scene we saw him in, he definitely had this presence to him where he was like he's the boss of something.
Hmm
Because you have one of the producers go up to him and like speak to him through the intercom, be like, "What should we do, sir?" And like kind of treat him as this be all end all head honcho kind of guy, like, oh, whatever he says goes. Like so I definitely interpreted him as the big boss, And then again, he's the one who's just, he doesn't even have to say anything. He just like looks at the guy, and the guy's just like, okay, we will cancel everything with the movie. We'll destroy everything. Again, adding on to this really interesting character, but in the grand scheme of things, he's just a red herring, because it's all Diane at the end of the day. It's all Diane. So wait a minute. Did Diane specifically think of Billy Ray Cyrus himself fucking Adam's wife? Or did David Lynch just really want to put...
pretty funny.
It'd be... You know what? Because he's credited as Gene, but like, I think it'd be really funny. But I think that would have added to the obviousness of it all. Like, I think Lynch was smart. I mean, he probably just wanted to put Billy Ray Cyrus in because, well, funny. But I think because he didn't make it obvious, you can then interpret it your own way. So I'd like to imagine she specifically was just like, I don't know, Billy Ray Cyrus.
Maybe she's just a huge country fan.
Yeah, maybe. Which is funny because she says she's from the Midwest. No, she says she's from Canada, but then she describes herself as a Midwest girl. But it's like, okay, you're from Canada. You're not from the Midwest. But again, I think being like this, small country American girl, again, makes her far more sympathetic in the eyes of whoever's watching her Hollywood movie fantasy. Because it's like, I'm just a normal Midwestern girl like you, audience member. It's like, well, I'm from the East Coast. I don't relate to any Midwesterners. So, but
yeah, she's a girl from a small town.
Yeah, but she's actually Canadian, played by a British woman who's also Australian. Wait, no, Naomi Watts is
British.
Naomi Watts is British. Yeah. Even though every movie I've seen her in, she has an American accent, but she's just a really good actress, I guess.
Yeah, she pulls it off really well.
Okay, yeah. She's a British actress. After her family moved to Australia, she made her film debut there in the drama For Love Alone from 1986. Okay, so she's just all over the place.
She's been all over the world.
She's been all over the world. Britain, Australia, Canada, America. That's it.
Yep, the whole world.
The whole world. That's all that counts.
Yeah, but no, she has a lot like on her shoulder. Like, she has to portray both of these characters who are vastly different, and she pulls them off very well.
Yeah, because Betty does seem like this very, very sympathetic, very simplistic kind of girl, and then you get to Diane, and she's this horrible human being. Not even so horrible that she's cartoonishly horrible. She's realistically horrible, where she's just a gigantic narcissist, but also just pathetic. She's pathetic, I think, is the best way to describe her. And yeah, horribly jealous, horribly pathetic. You're right. No, Naomi Watts does a great job portraying the two sides of the coin. There is a lot to talk about, but I'm just trying to think, because, like, again, there's only so much I can glean from a first watch.
Yeah, definitely.
But I guess I do have a question. Do you own this physically?
So I do, actually. So
really?
I own a DVD of it.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I bought the DVD I realized, oh, wait a minute, genius, there's a Criterion Blu-ray of it. But, I'm not the kind of guy who would like just upgrade to like buy a movie I already own just because it's on a sharper format.
It depends on the actual quote unquote upgrade it gets for me, or like how good the DVD I have of it is. Like, I don't own Pulp Fiction on 4K. I own Pulp Fiction on a special edition DVD from the mid 2000s because it has so much stuff on it, and it comes with like a mini menu from Jack Rabbit's. Like, I love that. I love that shit. So yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, because I know people are just like, people in the boutique Blu-ray commute side of the internet are just like, Blu-rays and 4Ks are much better. It's like, yeah, I don't know. You can still get something out of DVDs if the DVD itself is impressive. If it's a DVD from 2019, no, that shit sucks.
Yeah.
But if it's a DVD from like the late 90s, early 2000s, that shit, I don't care how compressed it looks. It's nostalgic. It's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, like, the less clear image could even like hide imperfections.
There you go. Yeah, no,
How it looked.
I was watching. Well, when Mordo and I we did a podcast on Panic Room, which is a movie from the early 2000s. It's this action thriller from uh Seven guy. Oh my god, I forgot his name. David Fincher. I'm like,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I almost lost my film bro card. Anyway, he made a movie called Panic Room, and I have it on DVD. And it's never gotten a Blu-ray or 4K release, which is weird because it's from Fincher, who's a big name, even though I just forgot his name a moment ago. But anyway, yeah, I felt like the DVD aesthetic really added to the aesthetic of it being from the early 2000s. So I really did prefer that kind of version. But yeah, so I don't own Mulholland Drive physically, but now that I've seen it, I really liked it. And the fact that I should be watching more of Lynch's real movies and not just Dune, I should add this to the collection. So, well, actually, describe this DVD. Is it worth owning, or should I just go for the Criterion?
So here's the thing. So I don't have the DVD with me at the moment because I'm on vacation right now. But there were a couple things about it I wanted to mention that I took pictures of because I knew I wanted to talk about them.
Oh,
One's like genuinely like an interesting little thing the DVD includes. The other's just a funny little. It's one of the one of those quotes that people give on the back of DVDs.
Oh, I love it already. Please, I can't wait.
Yeah, like there are a few on this one. Like you got like the typical stuff, like people saying like, "Oh, beautiful, twisting, hypnotic."
Yeah.
Like it gets inside your head.
Yeah.
And then there's one. It's included with the so like DVD, like they give a plot synopsis of the movie, and then with this one, it's in the same font and it's part of the same paragraph as the plot synopsis, and it's a bit of a long one. So this is from Peter Travers of Rolling Stone. And it says, there's nothing like this baby anywhere. This sinful pleasure is a fresh triumph for Lynch and one of the best films of the year. Visionary daring, swooning eroticism, and colors that pop like a whore's lip gloss.
Wow. I'm sold. Thank you, Peter. Very cool.
I was like, oh, I like the movie. It's a little like calm down, son. It's just a film.
Colors pop. Wait, read that back again. Color pops.
Colors that pop like a whore's lip gloss.
Colors that pop like a whore's lip gloss.
Which
Wow.
That's a little too specific. And then the quote that immediately follows it is just see it ... then see it again.
See the whore's lip gloss twice even. Oh. Here's the thing. There's not a lot of like quotes from critics or trailers even. Like when it comes to marketing a film, I don't really consider marketing from a film to convince me one way or another. Like I feel like, because again, Mulholland Drive, I figured I was going to see anyway because it's a David Lynch film and I'm a fan of film and cinema. I feel like I would have to watch it out of obligation. But man, if I took any inspiration or any convincing from critics, that right there convinced me that a hell of a lot more than I'd like to admit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the one other thing on the DVD is, you know how some DVDs have those like little slips in the, like when you open it up, there's the disc, and on the other side is kind of like a little,
you get a little pamphlet
paper slip.
Yeah. Well,
this has that, and it's just a one little double-sided thing.
Oh yeah.
And I assume because I know some of them have like, they'll include like the chapters of each movie.
Oh yeah.
When you go to the chapter select screen, and I figured this would have that as well, but then I turned it over, and it's actually, so it's David Lynch's 10 clues to unlocking this thriller.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if you want me to like I can send the photo to you if you want me to just, I don't know if I want to read them all out loud here.
I'm kind of curious now. Please, if you could send it in the chat. I'll put it up on the visual part of the of the visual upload of the podcast. I know this is going to make the episode go on longer, but now I'm kind of curious.
Oh, if you want me to read them,
Please.
definitely.
Please, by all means.
Yeah, so I just sent it. Come on. Okay.
Excellent.
So the first one is pay particular attention in the beginning of the film. At least 2 clues are revealed before the credits.
Is that the Eric Andre skit where people are dancing badly green screened?
I assume so.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. The second is notice appearances of the red lampshade.
Where was there a red lampshade?
I think that was in the apartment.
Maybe.
Like the main one that Betty moved into.
Yeah, her quote unquote aunt's apartment, right?
Yeah. I think that's where it was.
Okay, yeah.
The third one is, can you hear the title of the film that Adam Kesher is auditioning actresses for? Is it mentioned again?
What was it?
I read that. I'm like, I don't like if it was mentioned, I
don't remember it.
Yeah. It could have just been like maybe it was like written somewhere, like a blinky or miss it kind of thing.
Maybe.
Yeah, the next one is I love how this is worded. An accident is a terrible event, which like yeah, no kidding.
No ship, Sherlock.
Notice the location of the accident.
Which
I'm pretty sure it takes place like on the titular Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, that's one of the big things is that it takes place on Mulholland Drive. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so this is one of the things I was actually noticed because I only noticed this little pamphlet till after I watched the movie. But the fifth one is who gives a key and why? And I'm pretty sure that's in reference to the hitman giving Diane the blue key.
Yes.
That is in the dream, but it's like it doesn't look like a normal key. It's kind of like weirdly shaped.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was just like, that's a different key.
Mm-hmm. And next is notice the robe, the ashtray, and the coffee cup.
The robe.
I remember there being an ashtray.
Yeah. I forget where though. Like in the apartment?
I think so.
Okay, because I know about the robe. The robe that Rita wears at the beginning, like when she's done showering.
Yeah.
And the coffee cup. Huh.
Felt, realized, and gathered at the Club Silencio.
What is felt, realized, and was it say gifted?
Let's see. Gathered.
Gathered in the Club Silencio. What is felt, realized, and gathered? Wow. I thought these were hints.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's kind of like a... Like, I think you were supposed to have this with you, like, while you're watching the movie, but I didn't notice it until after. I was like, these weren't things I was really keeping in mind. And then the next one is, did talent alone help Camilla?
Did talent alone help Camilla? Well, I mean, what are Adam's intentions with Camilla, really? Like, when we see the seeds of him with her on the car and Diane's watching the whole time, does Adam respect her as an actress, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's...
Or is it because the director's boning the main actress, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Stuff to think about.
Definitely. And the ninth one is note the occurrences surrounding the man behind Winky's, which is the coffee shop, the diner.
Yeah, that's where. So they're talking about the bum that Dan sees in his dream, goes up to, and then the bum appears, and then that's when Dan has like a heart attack. Does he die in that one scene?
Yeah, because it almost seems like he, like you said, kind of like has a heart attack at the sight of him.
Yeah.
And then I get maybe he's like having a panic attack too, because it will almost like he's breathing heavily.
Yeah. Realistic panic attack portrayed in film. Take that, Puss in Boots.
Yeah. They specifically watched Mulholland Drive in order
Yeah.
to make the panic attack in Puss in Boots.
Yeah. No, Mulholland Drive ripped off Mario, the Super Mario Brothers movie, for having a realistic panic attack.
When did that movie have a
Well, so that's the
panic
thing.
attack?
So like when people are just like, "Oh, every animated movie has a realistic panic attack," they put in Mario, but Mario didn't have a panic attack. He just held his chest because he just got hit by Bowser in that one shot, and
Oh my
people
gosh.
falsely equated it as a realistic panic attack. It's just like
No. There's a difference between panic attack and
Yeah.
having the wind knocked out of you.
Yeah, I just think it's
Two
funny.
very different sensations.
I just think it's funny when people do that. Or they're
Yeah.
just like, Mario had a realistic panic attack. It's like Mario of all movies.
It's
But
under the pressure of running his plumbing business,
Mamma mia.
being framed for covering Al Delfino in this icky black goop.
Yeah.
And then the final one, the 10th one, is Where is Aunt Ruth?
Did Aunt Ruth ever exist? Because, well, in the fantasy, yes, she exists. Because
I'm leaning towards maybe she. I'm kind of leaning towards no,
no.
that she didn't exist. But I'm kind of thinking maybe Diane like had an Aunt Ruth, like just
Right.
like she kind of just lifted the name.
Yeah, or
and
she
nothing
thought
else.
oh, Aunt Ruth lived in California, but realistically she lived in like Sacramento, which is nowhere near LA, but she's just like, oh, she lives with the movie stars.
Yeah. Where they just think like all of California is
Yeah.
just Hollywood.
Yeah, well, it is. You know, I've been there once. It
Yeah,
is just
definitely.
basically Hollywood. I should know. I'm the California expert, having been there once.
Yeah, I've only been there once myself.
Okay, so cool. David Lynch's 10 clues into unlocking this thriller. I think this didn't unlock anything. If anything, this put 3 more locks on the movie for me.
Yeah, it made it a bit
out.
more confusing because I was like, I thought I had a lot of it figured out, but then you asked all these questions. Now I'm like, did I?
Yeah. It's like that scene in Return of the Jedi when they're trying to open up the door and Han's just like, I got it, and then the door closes even further. It's like, maybe someday I'll get it, but not today.
Yeah.
Thanks anyway, David.
Thanks. Bravo, David. Bravo.
Yeah, bravo, David. Bravo.
You did a good one.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you know what? If I could ever find this DVD, this version of the DVD, maybe I'd like it just for the fact of having those 10 clues. I think that would be really funny. But if I can find the Criterion faster, I think I'd rather have it on the Criterion Blu-ray.
I'd probably stick with that. Yeah. Get it in my honor.
Yeah.
Because I don't have it.
Sure. But yeah, regardless of what version I have, I want to add Mulholland Drive to the collection. So. All right. But actually, before we move on, are you keeping this DVD? I guess I should ask.
Yeah, I would say. Because like I said, it's like I know there's like higher quality versions out there, but it's just, again, I'm not the kind of person to buy a movie that I already own just because it's slightly higher quality. And the DVD I watched it on, it looked perfectly fine. Like, I didn't see any issues with it.
Yeah.
The only DVD I owned where the quality is genuinely so bad that I would want to upgrade is, have you ever heard of this movie called Warlock?
Warlock.
It's with Richard E. Grant.
Oh, wait. Yes, Warlock with Richard E. Grant. Holy shit, I love that movie. Wait. Oh, yeah. I can't believe I didn't.
So I bought it at the same like vintage video store. And I can't remember if it was like the aspect ratio is kind of off and the quality was terrible. Like it wasn't so bad that I had to stop watching it. Like obviously I could still watch it. I could still make out what was going on, but I feel like it could benefit from, I don't even know if there's a Blu-ray of it.
I hope so. It feels like one of those cheesy 80s movies that maybe like Arrow or Shout Factory would pick up.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I love that movie, Warlock. That was really that was really fun. Really fun movie. I love it. Yeah, no, I think because like what year was that DVD from?
I didn't check.
Okay, because I'm trying to think, because like there was, even though I like the late '90s, early 2000s DVDs, there's some late '90s DVDs that, like, I'm talking like real early set of DVDs, like '97. I'm pretty sure that are like weren't that great. Like I used to have this DVD of Last Action Hero that was from like way, 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 way long time ago, like '97. Like very early on DVD, and I think I put it in and it immediately started the movie, and I was just like, whoa, wait a minute, what about the menu?
Yeah.
What about the trailers? Like, what is this? So, but yeah, and I think I remember even on my small TV, like the quality of the DVD was like, wait a minute, something's off here. This is compressed digitally.
Yeah. That was the issue, is compressed. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
Which again, depending on the movie, it could add to it, it could not, but sometimes you do want the nicest version possible. Which is why I'll still get 4Ks and Blu-rays of certain movies.
Yeah, like if I can get it in like the highest quality possible, I will. Well, although I don't own a 4K player personally, so this is why when I buy a 4K, I always make sure it comes with a Blu-ray.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you got to. Not to say you have to right away. Obviously, save up, but you need to get 4K pilled. Having a 4K player is the best thing. Is one of the best things I ever did, because you can play any disc on there because it's also region free, and so you can play discs from other countries on there, which I think is a really cool feature. Yeah, get 4K pilled. I demand it. Go bankrupt and spend all your savings on a 4K player.
Maybe in a good 20 years when they're outdated.
Ooh, there you go.
I'll be able to.
Yeah, that's how I got my VHS player. Cheap.
See, it's smart thinking right there.
Yeah. Always ahead by being behind. All right. Do we want to move on to vampires?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to another director we've talked about on the podcast, John Carpenter. Because we talked about Big Trouble in Little China way all the way back to the beginning of this podcast. First guest episode when I had William on. Yeah, we talked about Big Trouble in Little China. So now we're going to talk about another John Carpenter film, one that I've never heard anybody talk about. The movie Vampires from 1998 with James Woods.
And Daniel, is that his name? Daniel Baldwin?
Yeah, not the Baldwin who shot somebody. The other one of the other Baldwins.
Not the murderer.
Yeah.
It was
not the boss
I
baby.
Found out
Baldwin.
Not the boss. Yeah, the boss baby, definitely. And it was through this that I found out there was a third Baldwin.
There's like,
because obviously
Baldwins.
I know. Oh, really? Because obviously I know Alec, and then there's Stephen Baldwin, who I distinctly remember he played Barney in that one Flintstones movie.
Yes.
That had the alien.
Yes, he was in Biodome. And then there's Daniel, who I guess is more of like a television actor. He was on an episode of Sopranos, or he was on a couple episodes of Sopranos, and he played himself. He played Daniel Baldwin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's an arc in the Sopranos when Christopher is like producing a movie, and they hire Daniel Baldwin to play like the Tony Soprano stand-in in his movie. So it was really, really interesting. But I'm pretty sure there's a fourth Baldwin brother. I don't remember the fourth one though.
I'm sure he's in a more obscure Carpenter
Billy
movie.
Baldwin. Wait, there's 5 Baldwin brothers. Wait a minute.
They're multiplying.
Oh my god, too many Baldwins.
There's too many of them.
There's not enough Boss Baby sequels to put them in. But anyway, Vampires. John Carpenter. Yeah. Again, I had never, not that I'd never heard of this before, because I've seen it on, his letterbox list being like, oh, hey, he directed this. This is not up there with The Thing or Halloween or Escape from New York when you think of Carpenter,
Yeah.
This is down there. This is what, in between Starman and Dark Star on Letterboxd, which Dark Star was his very first film, which I've seen. It's pretty good.
I have seen Dark Star.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was I like the beach ball alien.
I like the ideas. You're your beach ball alien. That's right. Oh my god.
I don't want to get too far off topic, but when I originally watched Dark Star, my initial thought was it kind of seemed like someone trying to like copy off of a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But then I kind of looked up the dates, and I'm pretty sure Douglas Adams wrote Hitchhiker's Guide after that movie came out.
Oh.
So
I knew about Dark Star because we talked about Jodorowsky's Dune on this podcast, and that was the movie that Jodorowsky had seen in theaters, and was just like, "Hey, the guy who did the production design, he's gonna do the production design for my movie." Oh god, yeah, I remember the day I watched Dark Star. It was his first, Carpenter's first, and then immediately after I watched his most recent film, The Ward from 2010. Very different movie.
Really?
You know how you can at least appreciate the aspects of Dark Star, even if you don't entirely like it. You can be like, you know what? It was his first time. It's cute.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then you watch The Ward, and you're just like, oh man, no wonder he hasn't directed anything in 14 years. Not a good film. But we're not here to talk about any of those films. We're here to talk about vampires.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I've never heard people talk about that. I'm sure there are people who have talked about it. I mean, it has a banner on Letterboxd. People have it has reviews on Letterboxd, so people have seen it.
People have definitely seen it.
Yeah, at least 8.3 thousand people, according to Letterboxd reviews, or 64,000 members have seen it, according to Letterboxd. But again, like I said, it's not up there with The Thing or Halloween, so. I was kind of worried. I was just like, is this like Carpenter, but like bad, like The Ward, where it's just really, really bad? Honestly, though, I really liked this movie. I really did. I don't know. What did you think of it?
It was fun. I had a pretty good time with it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. It's not anything grand. It's very simple. For what it is. It's John Carpenter taking on vampires. And I think what that is, it's basically as good as it could have been.
Yeah, it's one of those like vampire action movies, which for some reason in like the late 90s, like we're kind of on that huge kick. Because I think this came out around the same time as Blade.
Yeah.
And Robert Rodriguez is From Dusk Till Dawn.
Which are also
yeah.
Well, I was thinking about it while watching this. It really gave me vibes to another late 90s vampire action movie that I saw during one of our wheel night sessions called Night Hunter. Yeah, because it was really reminding me of that movie. It's like Don the Dragon Wilson plays a vampire hunter. And also, it's a very Italian movie. I don't remember why, but we were making a lot of Sopranos jokes while watching that movie. It wasn't very good because, well, we watched it on wheel night, and we rarely ever come across good movies in wheel night. Look, occasionally we'll get a Bud the Chud, but a lot of the times we get a Night Hunter, we get a Gags the Clown. There's a lot. But anyway, yeah, no, you're right. I guess there was a bit of a kick of 90s action vampire movies, now that I think about it. And I feel like this movie, while not the best, I guess, because I guess you could probably argue From Dusk Till Dawn and Blade are much better. I don't think this movie is bad, though. I think it is in its own kind of ballpark in what it's trying to achieve. One thing I was actually expecting was late 90s cheesy CGI. Which I was kind of looking forward to because I think that stuff's kind of nostalgic, and I'm like, it's the late 90s. I'm sure John Carpenter was trying to adapt to that, but to my surprise, there was no CGI in this movie. A lot of all of them were practical effects.
I'm glad you brought that up because it made me realize, like, I'm glad this movie came out when it did.
Yeah,
because I feel like we had similar movies like in the 2000s and 2010s. Like in particular, I'm thinking of like I don't know if you're familiar with like I, Frankenstein or Van Helsing.
I've seen
like,
I, Frankenstein. I've seen Van Helsing because people in my server are just like, you got to see Van Helsing. And we had a movie night and I watched it and everyone was just like, isn't this so funny? I'm like, no. I'm sorry. I don't get the ironic hype for Van Helsing. It's not for me. I'm glad people enjoy it, but I'm just like, I don't see why this is fun.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar kind of idea of like taking these like classic monsters and putting them in like a badass action setting.
Oh yeah.
And the reason I'm glad like this movie came out when it did is I feel like if it had come out later, like in 2000s or definitely 2010s, it would have been very CGI heavy.
Yes.
And it wouldn't have looked nearly as good.
Yeah, I feel like being in that 90s era where yes, CGI was a lot more prominent because they had just discovered that they can use it, because we had movies like Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park that were just like, hey, we can do this stuff now. And people were just like, holy shit, we can. And then we get Nightmares, that's like Space Jam. But I still feel like because CGI was new, you could still have movies with mostly practical effects like vampires coming out and people wouldn't think any different. Like, people just be like, oh yeah, there's vampires, practical effects. Okay. Whereas I feel like if now it came out and it just had practical effects, this movie would be lauded as like the greatest thing of fucking mankind. Because it's something different. So
yeah, a lot of really good like practical gore effects.
The scene at the beginning. Oh, you go ahead.
I was gonna say I like that one where I guess like the head vampire shows up to the motel.
Yeah.
Like the dude opens the door, he just sticks his hand through the guy, like Agent Smiths him.
Yeah.
And then just pulls it out, just slices him in half.
That was the part I was gonna bring up. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. Yeah, he just splits in half. It was great. I was just like, oh, amazing. And I just love the ideas this movie has. How you have these vampire hunters. I like how it kind of establishes itself kind of like in a Ghostbusters sense, where you're dealing with these fantastistical figures, but treating it more so as a job. So you have these vampire hunters going in, like James Woods.
Kind of like a typical like 9 to 5 for them.
Yeah, because James Woods seems very serious about it. He's just like, all right, we're going in, we're going out. Like, he's taking it very seriously because he doesn't want his men to die and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he establishes all like rule number 5: if like where there's a nest, there's a master.
Yeah.
Also, so like they've been doing this for a while.
Yeah. Again, it's like little details like that are great because they don't necessarily have to explain it. There's a bit of weird exposition. I can forgive it because it's a cheesy movie that doesn't seem to be taking itself too seriously. Not in an obnoxious way though. Like, I want to establish, like, even though it doesn't take itself seriously, it's not obnoxious about the fact that it's not taking itself seriously. It is quite. I don't want to say adorable, but it is adorable. You know, like it's very quaint.
It kind of like it takes itself seriously in a way that's fun. Like the fun comes from how seriously the actors take it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because again, James Woods is so serious in this movie. He thinks he's the coolest motherfucker around, which I think kind of makes it funny.
Very weird casting.
Very weird casting. Yes. Because you don't think James Woods is like, you would probably hire someone like a Bruce Willis or a Jason Statham, and he actually could be the coolest motherfucker around. Like, those are guys you could
even
think
like Kurt Russell, because he's worked a lot with Carpenter.
Oh,
like,
Kurt Russell
he probably would have been perfect.
Yeah, but that would have made this movie like a genuinely. I feel like if it didn't work, it would have been far more disappointing. I feel like James Woods, not that he's miscast, because he doesn't do a bad job, but it is just really funny seeing him be this ultra badass when it's James Woods, who's like this wormy douchebag kind of guy, whether IRL or in the movies. He's very good at being this wormy asshole character. So seeing him be this like ultra tough badass, it's weird, but I kind of like it. I think it adds to the tone because he's trying so hard to seem cool that it doesn't come across as genuinely cool, but it does come across as genuinely entertaining. is the
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, you look at that whole crew at the beginning, like
Yeah.
they don't exactly like strike you as like the cool kind of monster hunter guy. Like they all seem like like they kind of seem like a bunch of like midlife crisis kind of middle-aged guys
Oh
who are
yeah,
like,
yeah, or like mercenaries at that type. I
yeah,
was I was thinking, I was thinking at the very beginning with these guys because these guys are just at the very beginning. I made a note here. I said it basically aliens but with vampires. So you have like these mercenaries like going
oh
out to
yeah,
kill, but that's only the first 10 or 20 minutes
hmm
because these guys all die at the motel and it's
yeah, they all
just
get they're all expendable. They all get
yeah.
killed up.
It's really funny because the movie kind
Hmm
of advertises itself as being like, oh, because you see on the cover of this DVD I have is you see James Woods with his crossbow and you see all like the different guys who are like behind him the whole time. But it's like, no, they
hmm
die 20 minutes into the movie.
And it's just James Woods, Daniel Baldwin, and uh, Father John Lennon.
He did
He
look
just
like
kind of
John
looks like
Lennon,
him.
didn't he? Father John Lennon. I'm calling him that from now on. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So it's not only that, yeah, but and then it's also the sex worker,
Yeah, that's true.
Katrina,
Um,
who
which is funny
I
that we're
thought.
talking about this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying this. It's funny we're talking about this along with Mulholland Drive because Cheryl Lee, who plays her, she wasn't in Mulholland Drive, but she has worked with David Lynch on a few different things. She's in Twin Peaks,
Oh yeah.
and like she's the girl who gets killed, whose murder they're trying to solve. And I think she also plays like a cousin of hers who just looks identical to her. It's
Mm.
the weird thing.
Yeah, it's Twin Peaks. It's its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, wow, what a connection that we made.
Mhm.
Good for us. We didn't do that on
Nice.
purpose. But
So yeah, it's just that.
to go back onto like the opening, I really like how they're um how they treat the job and how like the ways they go to defeat the vampires, how they have like they
Mhm.
have the crossbow, they'll shoot it into the vampire and then
Yeah,
they'll
the
just
way they're
pull them
disposed of
they'll pull them out
is,
into the sun
mhm.
and then they catch on fire again.
And they just burst into
They
flames.
burst into flames again. You would in a modern movie you would entirely CGI that.
Hmm
You'd probably pull the person out, like you'd have the stunned person be pulled out, but then you would just like catch them on fire with like CGI flames and stuff like that. It's like no,
Yeah,
they're
probably.
it looked fake when they would catch on fire, but I think that
Hmm
kind of added to it because it was actually kind of funny when they eventually just exploded into fire. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, seeing a vampire explode is funny no matter what. It's great.
hmm
Like I love seeing it.
Yeah, the way yeah, like I said, the way they're disposed of, it's funny the way it's presented, but also like, yeah, no, I guess if we're going by that part of vampire
Lore.
lore,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
and like how they hate this, like that would be an efficient way to
yeah, to get rid of them.
get rid of
And
them.
it's not something I've seen before. I've never really seen that in a movie. I mean, I've probably seen vampires exploding. I'm pretty sure they explode in Blade, but I don't know, just the way they explode, I've never seen in anything else. So that was really cool to
Mhm.
see. Again, they explode in Blade, and I think it's all entirely CGI, which is fine for that movie.
Yeah.
But I feel like for this movie, it made it far more unique.
hmm
Also, I wrote this down. Just of um, the idea of vampires being the result of a reverse exorcism. I never really thought of it
Oh
like
yeah,
that. Like they talked
the
about that.
Catholic Church created vampires.
Yeah, I was like
This-
thinking like, oh yeah,
that's-
reverse exorcism because the body's dead but the soul is still alive. It's like,
Mhm.
huh. Oh yeah. Like I never thought of it like that. I was just like what a weird way of putting it. Now there's a connection between vampires and The Exorcist. How about that?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um
Yeah, and how like the head vampire, he was a result of that
yeah.
reverse exorcism
Yeah.
used by they use like that black cross that he's looking for.
Yeah, which I guess that kind of makes the twist a lot more obvious looking back on it, but I still think it's a
Yeah.
good twist when it's revealed that oh the cardinal.
Yeah, the cardinal was he was in on it the whole time.
Yeah. Which I mean, again, even though it's an obvious twist looking back, the thing that James Woods says to him, "You are truly a pile of dog shit, Cardinal, was so good. It's
Mhm.
such a great line. You are truly a pile of dog shit, Cardinal. I've been quoting it ever since I watched the movie. It's so good.
I guess just some things that I found. I don't know if like interesting would be the word.
Hmm.
Like so when Cheryl Lee, like when she gets bitten, like they're talking about like, oh, but she'll turn, and we're like, no, it's under 48 hours. So like they're establishing these rules, like there's a
Yeah.
set time when someone turns. And apparently when you're bitten by a vampire, you're like telepathically linked to the master.
Yeah.
And so you have this like where you just see what but it only happens in like short little bursts.
Right. And it's like, okay, if that's the case, why did the master abandon her then? It's just like, well, wouldn't it make it, if it's 48 hours, wouldn't you want her to stay with you for a while then? You'd kidnap her so then she eventually does turn while she's under your command. I guess it ultimately doesn't matter because she turns anyway, but then again, they're able to defeat Valak because they had her with them, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like
because they use her to track him down.
Yeah. And again, it also does add to this, like, okay, 48 hours is when she'll turn. Why? That's very specific. I guess I don't mind these weird rules because not that they don't question them. I mean, because they deliver them in such ways where it shows that they're experts and you're just like, okay, we don't really need to delve into that. That's just how it works.
They don't dwell on them.
They don't dwell on them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I almost kind of like the idea of when James Woods is like with Father John Lennon and they're driving and he's explaining to him, like, you know, with vampires, when you kill them, you got to kill them. You know, you can't kill them with garlic. You can't kill them with, was it like silver? Like this, he's going over the trope.
Silver crosses.
He's going over the tropes that don't work when it comes to vampires. He's like, it's not like the movies, but then other tropes do work.
Yeah, don't use these tropes that they use in the movies. Use these other tropes.
Yeah,
which is funny because we mentioned Blade earlier.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that movie also had a line where Blade mentions to like his partners like, oh, don't use like crosses and stakes, stuff that you see in the movies.
Yeah.
Like,
I have a feeling a lot of vampire movies post Dracula, Nosferatu are just going to have, any vampire movie post those, especially in the modern day, are just going to have moments where they're just like, this is not like the movies. But it's like, okay, if every movie does that, it's going to become obnoxious. Which
it's not like these movies; it's like these other movies.
Yeah, it's which again, like I said earlier with the whole meta stuff, I was just like, I'm not a fan of meta stuff when it's in everything. When it's done properly, it's fine. Which I feel like that scene where James was just like, this is not like the movies. It was teetering, but I feel like it was over before it could get annoying. So I was like, all right, I'm fine with that. And again, he doesn't dwell on it. He's very much delivering it as this is what it is. And then the Father John Lennon's just like, okay, then this is how it is. And so then, like, I really describe this movie as no fat. Like, it really gets to the point with what it wants to show. It wants to show the vampire action scenes. You have scenes that don't involve vampire action scenes, but they're not like long and boring to the point that the movie becomes a chore to sit through. You are actually still engaged with where it's going.
Yeah, like there's a lot, like something I noticed, like there's a lot of exposition, and particularly from Father John Lennon, especially when he's like, especially like when they're in the truck together and he's talking to Jay, he's like spewing out his backstory. He's like, oh, vampires killed your parents. You were brought up by the Catholic Church to kill vampires. I'm like,
and that's when James Woods like puts on the brakes,
takes him out,
and beats the shit, like pulls him out of the truck, beats the shit out of him. It's like, okay, that's funny. Like, they had something lame, they brought it back with something cool or funny. Like, that's the thing. When the movie's not cool, it's funny.
Exactly.
So I'm perfectly okay with that. But you're right. There is some obnoxious exposition, and there's also some obnoxious editing at points too, where I'm just like, you know how like sometimes they'll just be like fading. They'll fade to the next scene, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, there's that, not to jump ahead, but there's that scene during the climax when James Woods is just like, all right, let's go kick some vampire ass, and then it like fades to like various scenes of the vampires running into the building but also exploding, and it's like, are we supposed to interpret them fighting the vampires during that? What is happening right now? Like, you know what scene I'm talking about?
You mentioned so it was the climax, right? Is it after it was revealed that the Cardinal was in on it?
Yeah, it's after the Cardinal was revealed.
Okay.
I think it's after. Yeah, it's after the Cardinal was shot, and after Father John Lennon gets James Woods off the cross. Which the scene. Well, I like the scene when Daniel Baldwin comes in, shoots the cross, and then like pulls it down, and then James Woods is just dragging on a cross.
He's
on the
still
ground.
on the cross. And she's being dragged.
That was great. But yeah, then Father John Lennon comes in and like cuts him off the cross, and then that's when James Woods is just like, all right, Father, all right, Padre, let's go kick some vampire ass. And then it does like this weird fade where it's like it's this weird editing trick, you know, when it like fades, it's like implying that time is passing, but it's fading to like the next scene where like the vampires are running into indoors, so it's like, what's happening here? It was a very weird editing. It was very weirdly edited. I thought it was funny, but I thought it was very amateurish. I'm just like, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, you're saying the action for the most part I thought was still
the action itself, like
really well done.
When you actually show the action, it's spectacular. Like the elevator scene.
Oh yeah, that elevator scene where the Father John Lennon's leading the dude into it. That was a really like well directed, intense sequence.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Now, how they were able to just climb on top of the elevator that quickly, who knows?
Yeah, you know, movie magic, vampire powers.
You know, it just made it a lot more fun and entertaining. And,
absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, like you're saying, it was very well directed, very well realized. And again, it's in a movie that's not The Thing or not Halloween, like not these very famous John Carpenter films. So like the fact that he can bring this like really well executed scenes to a film nobody really talks about as often is really impressive, I must say.
Yeah, because like you look at them, like it's a movie that's just called Vampires, like kind of a generic title.
I was expecting some real generic shit with this film.
Yeah. Like it kind of just seems like, okay, this is just a for hire gig. And I mean, for all we know, it could have been, but he still
absolutely could have been. Like, well, I do have some information on the movie because the DVD, like you were saying with your Mulholland Drive DVD, how it comes with a pamphlet. My Vampires DVD also comes with a pamphlet, but continue your thought. Sorry.
Yeah, like I was saying, like even though it could have been just a for hire gig he did for the money, like he's still a professional, and so he brought his A game to it.
Yeah. So I remember I was reading this pamphlet actually earlier, and it's basically this. First of all, this really weird pamphlet. I've never seen this. So you know how like sometimes they're like little booklets, sometimes they're singular pieces of paper. So this is a singular piece of paper, but it's folded inward like a brochure, so you can like open it up. Yeah, it's really interesting. I'll have to take a bunch of pictures and put it in the episode when I talk about it. But yeah, so you open it up, and well, it comes with the scene selections, which are all at the bottom, and you hold it like a centerfold essentially, and you see it. It goes from like scene selections all the way to the end. It's really interesting. I've never seen a DVD pamphlet like this ever. But yeah, it basically says that the movie rights were bought in like the early 90s, and of course they didn't start filming until 97. And Carpenter was saying like, yeah, this went through like 2 screenplays and a novel before it came to me. It's like, oh, okay. And it even says like, oh, let me take all 3 and see what I can do with that, which is a very nice way of putting it, I guess. But it still went through development hell no matter what. no matter how you want to phrase it. But it was, but yeah, I think, but even still, like 2 screenplays and a novel, and the movie still felt cohesive enough. Like, it's not the greatest written film, but I think for what it is, it did a really good job of getting across that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like it's the way, like, because you meant, like, with all that material, you would think like, oh, the movie's gonna feel very like overstuffed with
Very
plot
bloated.
and yeah, and like yeah, like we said, there's exposition, there's backstory, but like it's not difficult to follow or figure out.
No, and like I said, there's no fat. Like, it feels like a movie
Mhm.
that like really trimmed the fat and only really shows you what it needs to. Like,
Yeah.
I was a little scared that it was 108 minutes. I was like, oh, that usually means like it's not going to be
Mhm.
paced very well. But it was.
You know,
It felt like
yeah,
an
no,
hour
like
and a half.
a nearly 2 hour movie, like it flew by.
Yeah, it felt like an hour and a half kind of movie where it's just like, oh
Mhm.
wow, it went over what it needed to and didn't really. It didn't overstay its welcome.
Mhm. And I just talk briefly about the it's the scene early on where the Cheryl Lee, she got bitten, and so they need to take her to this motel.
I like how when Valak bit her, he bit her like close to her pussy, just to make it look like he's eating her out. And it was like, all right, Carpenter.
He bit her on the leg.
On the leg, but it was very close.
I'm not an expert on vampire lore, but I don't think that's where where they usually do it.
Yeah, the trope goes on the neck, but I guess it doesn't matter. You can bite them anywhere and they're going to turn. But I just thought it was funny that it was that close. And when he's biting her, it looks like very, very inappropriate imagery. I'm just like, all right, Carpenter, you silly Billy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like when she's in the motel and trying to escape, and like Daniel Baldwin, Montoya, I think is his character.
Yeah, Tony Montoya.
Yeah.
Which, that's the name, no, it's Tony Montana in Scarface, but it's very close. I was just like, is that a slight Scarface reference?
Who's to say?
Yeah.
You know, and she when she's out the window, he like yanks her in, like obviously breaking the glass.
Yeah.
He gets this like huge wound on his arm, and he's just like, oh, look what you did. Like like he didn't just get this like massive cut that's like gushing blood.
Yeah.
And then he puts it, like, he knows she was bitten. Like, he knows she is gonna turn soon, and he puts his arm out just right out in the open for her to bite it.
Yeah, that was weird. Even the whole like when he like first when she first wakes up and she's naked and tied to the bed, and he goes over and like pulls off the duct tape and she begins to scream. He like puts his hand over her mouth, and I'm just like, okay,
yeah, like
she's gonna be a vampire soon. Like,
yeah, like when you put like, I assumed like part of why you put the duct tape over was like, so she wouldn't make a lot of noise and scream, but also because so she couldn't bite anyone.
Yeah, and it was weird. And I guess, granted, it wasn't time for her to turn yet, so maybe he was confident in that, but I don't know, that just seemed very unprofessional when it comes to vampire hunters. Yeah. I'm no vampire hunter myself, but I don't know, that to me screamed unprofessionalism in the world of vampire hunting.
Yeah, I don't do it often.
Yeah, no, every Tuesday.
Definitely don't do that. It's also weird because, like you said, she woke up naked, and he says that, oh, it's because I washed your clothes for you. I was like, did you have to do that?
Did you? And then you tied her up naked? It's just like,
yeah, you left her that way. Like this is gonna sound really bad out of context, but like I get tying her up because obviously she was bitten.
Yeah,
and you obviously don't want her to escape because you want her to track Valak down. But I didn't really get the other stuff.
Yeah, the other stuff, I was just like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Yeah. Also, just the full fact that he's not telling James. I guess I get it that he's not telling James Woods about how he's been bitten. Technically,
it's also kind of a cliche. And
then I'm like, okay, James Woods doesn't suspect him, but then James Woods reveals later to Father John Lennon, where he's just like, my father hid the fact that he was a vampire and killed my mother, and then I had to kill him. And I'm just like, okay, so you know what it's like when somebody is hiding the fact that they're a
hiding it from you.
vampire. Hello, like
And then
hello.
when he's like asking, like, "Hey, are you all right? Anything happened?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, everything's like." He's clearly sounding like
He's clearly lying.
yeah.
And James Woods is just like,
he doesn't
okay.
he doesn't press him further. He's just like, yeah, okay.
Which I'm
Like,
wondering
wait a minute.
I'm wondering if maybe because James Woods does suspect it the whole time, but again, that's not really ever communicated, like ever. Like he just doesn't press any further. It's very weird. Like I don't know. I'm trying to think of like ways to explain it, but I think it's just who cares really. You know, it doesn't matter, which kind of annoys me, but whatever.
Yeah, that is also kind of like a trope
Yes.
too in like movies with like vampires or zombies. Like someone gets bitten, but they don't tell the rest of the group,
which is kind of an obnoxious trope. I guess I didn't mind it as much here because it's not the focus, and like the movie is exciting enough to distract me from that annoying trope. But yeah, I do not like that as a trope because it's like, okay, we all know how this is going to end. Like there's no point in preventing the inevitable. Like inevitably somebody's going to die. Like, get it over with. I'm when it comes to frustrating aspects in movies, it's like, that's frustrating in that I know how this is going to end and you're just prolonging the inevitable. Like just get it over with, or portray it in a better way than what you're portraying it now.
Yeah. And they try to do like kind of a romance between Daniel Baldwin and the
which
Cheryl Lee.
Yeah, which again comes out of nowhere. You're just like, you can claim this all you want.
We're both about to turn to vampires, so I guess we might as well be together.
I guess that's what they're going for. Again, it's not communicated as well. It's like, that's genuine flaws in the script writing and the actual filmmaking. It's like, okay, that's probably why this movie's not as remembered as well, because those aspects, they're not as strong as the good stuff that's actually in this movie. I mean, it does lead to a really neat idea where he's just like, I'm running away with Katrina, and James Woods is just like, I'm still going to kill you. Like, he actually says, I'm pretty sure line for line, he says what they say and take it. He's like, I will find you and I will kill you.
He does. I will find you. He says, I will find you, and then some stuff in between, and then I will kill you. I don't know if he says those two exactly, but
it was very similar where I'm just like, I guess Taken really wasn't all that original. The one thing that you could probably argue Taken could still be remembered for, and it wasn't even the first movie to do that. It's like, well, shit.
Dang.
I guess Liam Neeson just said it cooler, so that's why people remember him saying it than James Woods. Look, in all fairness, he does say it a lot cooler because it's Liam Neeson. Yeah. So,
and I guess that's also the movie that like made him an action star. And
yes,
I don't remember seeing James Woods in many action movies after this.
Yeah, no. Again, we know James Woods because he was in Hercules and Videodrome, like movies where he plays assholes, not the badass Jack Crow. Look, Jack Crow is objectively a cool action movie name, but the fact that James
I love the way
Alex
says it when he looks at him when he shows up at the motel. He just goes, Jack Crow.
Yeah, it's like, why did you say that name?
So I do recognize James Woods as Hades, but not for Hercules. I recognize because I grew up with Kingdom Hearts, and he was one of the few actors who reprised their roles. From the movie to the game. Yeah. So I did recognize the voice when I heard it. I was like, wait a minute, that's Hades. But wait, because I guess shameful regret here, I have not seen Hercules.
Oh, but you've played Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah. I played Kingdom Hearts because I never grew up with like Disney movies.
Right.
Because I grew up in a house with two older brothers, so those weren't exactly...
This is a DreamWorks house, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I did watch a bit. I did watch Shrek, Madagascar, that kind of stuff.
Of course, the goats.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I eventually watched like the classic Disney, like Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, like very later on in my life.
Sure.
Yeah, like these weren't movies that I grew up with, even though I technically did, but through Kingdom Hearts.
Right.
Hmm.
That is so funny. The Kingdom Hearts is your introduction to these Disney movies.
Yeah.
That's great. No, that's awesome. That's the kind of cringe I can get behind.
Hmm.
Well, no, I do recommend Hercules.
Okay.
Whenever you get to it, obviously. And look, like, say what you will about James Woods as a person, I'm sure you could make arguments about how much of an asshole he is, which he does. Even he does come across as a bit of an asshole as a celebrity. I mean, most celebrities do, but he especially does come across as a bit of a douchebag.
I don't know the details of like why he's hated. I just know like he's like said some controversial things.
Yeah, he's one of those like, you know, controversial celebrities that who's a huge prick. But he is very good in the roles that I've seen him in. Like he is very good at Videodrome. He's very good as Hades in Hercules. Like he's one of the reasons why Hades works as well as he does and is such an iconic villain. So he plays these roles really well. But yeah, and I do think he is a good actor regardless. Like he is a good actor in this movie. He's not my number one choice when it comes to a badass vampire slayer named Jack Crow. But I think because he does this role, I think it does add a level, like I was saying, a level of like hilarity to the whole movie, where I can still enjoy it because I see James Woods acting like this badass dude, and it just comes across as funny to me. Like that just is really entertaining. And again, he has some really stellar line reads in this. Like I said, "You are truly a pile of dog shit, Cardinal." I was like, that's amazing. Yeah. I want to see an animatic, or I want to see like somebody take clips from Hercules and just have Hades say these things
just
that he says.
That voice.
Yeah, just have him say like "die, fucker, great. Die." Like that'd be great. Huh.
Yeah. No, because I feel like that casting of him kind of feeds into the whole, like we were talking about earlier, how kind of like the vampire hunting just kind of feels like a job, like
yes,
a literal day job because they hunt these guys during the day.
Yes, very much so. So it's interesting. It's interesting. Like it's probably not as cool as it could be, but it doesn't, like, I feel like the movie has enough cool aspects, like the score, for example, is John Carpenter like riffing on a guitar. It's great. And so that alone makes it badass at points when it doesn't have to be. Like I said, the movie's either really cool or really funny. Like there's no in between. It's either or. And definitely. That makes for an entertaining movie.
I don't mean to rush, but we do kind of need to wrap up in a little bit. Not super quickly, but
sure. Well, I mean, yeah, I basically I have left to say is about the DVD, so we can get into that.
Okay, yeah.
So this is a DVD from 1998. I think it's definitely early on. Well, because it's one of those discs that has a side A and side B. So like side A has the widescreen and side B has the full screen. I'm not a plebeian, so I watched it on a widescreen, which looked great. Like I said, there was that little pamphlet, which was really cool. So it's a really cool DVD, I must say. I really, really do like it. So I'm definitely going to keep it. This is definitely for the collection. Because it's just a very nostalgic DVD. It's very cool, very early 2000s, late 90s. But also, the movie's just a lot of fun, and I highly recommend people check it out. So are you thinking of adding this to your physical collection?
I wouldn't say it's something I would like willingly go out of my way to buy.
Sure.
Like if I see it for cheap at a store, because like there is one place in particular I like this old video comic book CD store that sells things for pretty cheap. And if I see it there, maybe I'll pick it up.
Yeah. I love those old vintage stores. I love, like I've said before, the one by me is called Bull Moose. It's great. I love it. So they're not very often, they're not very popular because, you know, I'm sure people have chains or like that specific store they go to, but they're not as popular. But if you can find one that's close by you, cherish it because it's really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but yeah, vampires, cool movie. Yeah. I really wasn't expecting to say that. I really was going in with the worst expectations for this, but I was pleasantly surprised. So
yeah, I was expecting something either like so bad it's hilarious, or I guess on the other end just kind of generic given the title.
Mm-hmm.
Like no, there's like genuinely a lot of like unironic stuff I appreciate about it.
This is something I feel like we would accidentally come across in a wheel night where we land on it and we're just like, yeah, it's not great, but there is enough aspects to it that we're just like kind of shocked that it does that. It does very well. So it's definitely one I want to watch again. Like maybe I'll watch this around like October, because vampires, it's a horror movie. Like it seems like prime Halloween season kind of.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So yeah. Well, Matt, why don't we take this opportunity for you to shout out your stuff, dude? Where can people find you?
So I have, like I said, I have a YouTube channel. It's called Shark Repellent Bat Spray, where you can watch my cinematic magnum opus, The Good Father, which I made back in, I want to say my sophomore year of high school. I think I made it. So definitely keep that in mind. And yes, the title is a blending of Goodfellas and The Godfather.
Oh, I thought it was a parody on The Naked Gun.
I'm sorry to disappoint. Yeah, there's that. I'm one of those freaks of nature who has a letterboxd.
Ugh, disgusting.
I know. Sorry to say.
It's a greatest shame.
Yeah, so there's those two. Aside from that, I'm not really active on much other social media. So those are really the two on the most.
Yeah, no, both those links will be in the description for sure.
All right.
So yeah, well, dude, thank you so much for coming on today to talk about Mulholland Drive and vampires. Two movies that I actually had a lot of fun watching, and from directors that I do need to see more films from, but the films I have seen from them, I love a lot for various reasons, not just that they're good. Because again, definitely. David Lynch's Dune, I've seen 5 times so far. I'm gonna see it more times, unfortunately. I know David Lynch.
I am interested to check that.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
Oh no, I haven't.
Oh, dude, you need to be Dune 1984 pilled. It's not good. Look, Villeneuve, great films. I've seen those. Those are great. Yeah, there's a sci-fi miniseries from the year 2000 that Puff and I have talked about on the podcast. I recommend that to people too, because it's actually genuinely really good. But the 84 movie, it's watching that is really fun because you see how it could be cool, and it's lame as fuck because it's so cheesy and 80s, but I think there is still some unironically cool things in there. Like the soundtrack is genuinely fucking incredible because it's Toto.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Cool.
So, but anyway, I go check out Dune 1984, a movie we've already talked about on the podcast. But yeah, Mulholland Drive, real Lynch film. That's great film. I'm glad I finally watched it, and I can't wait to watch it again. So, yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, so I think that's just going to do it then. So thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.